I have a lot to say on elitism. I mean, like, it kind of bleeds into a different subject, which isn't directly related to art school, but it's like elitism in general as an artist. And something that I've kind of noticed is like when you're trying to network as a YouTuber, a lot of this kind of reminds me of high school in a way, where people get too wrapped up in their own egos or like how many subscribers they have or how many people are looking at their art. And when you network with people who are like a little bit too into themselves, they might look at you like as a, I don't know, like for example, my vibe, right? I like talking about intellectual things every once in a while, but at the same time, it's a lot of fun to just, say your mom joke or that your mother's a whore because I have problems. What do you want? And people like that who are always serious about their art or about their craft or think of themselves as like in a higher rung above other people, like it's really hard to really get to them, because to me it bothers me that a lot of these people actually are very talented, but the elitism gets in the way of being able to like properly network and establish some kind of friendship. And I feel like everybody in this conversation is just fed up with that kind of like superficial, I'm better than you, like holier than thou kind of attitude. Like, am I wrong?
No, you're completely right with that.
I think a lot of that's true. I think another thing too is a lot of people are, I always use the word poser. I mean, that's the word we always used, where they, and this is where some of the elitism and jealousy and other things can come from as well, is people that are not really cut out for that kind of thing think that they are. And some people are actually quite good at taking something that someone else has made and copying it, replicating it, and they have enough of a work ethic to kind of skate along being a poser. And it's frustrating if you see those people start to do well because they completely ripped off someone else. And there's certain people that I think have imposter syndrome as well, and this leads to them lashing out and being kind of vindictive about certain things because they really have no business being there in the first place, which is why I've always used the expression regarding guitar, which is there's people that wear a guitar and there's people that play the guitar. They're two different things. But you can actually get pretty far just wearing a guitar if you say the right things and have the right image and you write some, you rip off some kind of crappy songs or something. And there's a lot of that for sure.
It's all about practicing what you preach. Like, there's a lot of... Do you know what I hate the most? And I want to do a video about it at some point. Is all these fucking filmmakers that make videos about being a bastarding filmmaker, and they do like, here's 10 things not to do when you make your first film, 10 camera tips for this, 10 audio engineering tips for this, and it's just like, it's endless, but they never make anything. The worst one is like audio producer type people, right, who make like, they'll make, what they'll do, they'll make like a song in a weird style, right, what, like Andrew Huang and stuff like that. They'll make a song in a weird style and it'll be fucking fantastic, right, it'll be amazing, but it's just part of a video. They don't actually bother making any music, any like albums or anything like that. They just kind of make videos about making stuff without actually making the stuff. So there's a lot of that kind of thing going on, where there's a lot of teachers out there that are just teaching without the breadth of knowledge. I'm not saying like Andrew Huang's a stupid person or anything like that. I'm just using him as one example, but I'm just noticing it now. There's all these people that make stuff like where they're trying to project an image, and I don't want to do that. Even though a lot of the YouTube channel is just me doing that exact thing. That's why it's important to make other things, artistic projects. But sometimes it's important to have like your favourite musician, right? Maybe in like the 80s they had a bit of a weird period where they started some weird supergroup, and that supergroup made 2 really god-awful albums, but they were god-awful in a really weird way. That kind of thing. At least they did that. Sure, the album's a load of shite, but they did that exact thing. And they made their vision, even if their vision is a load of shite, they at least made it, and a bad thing being made is better than no thing being made.
It's the same kind of poser, I mean, the people who make videos about making videos, or the people who try to tell you how to do something without doing it. It's like the same thing as you see those 21-year-old dating coaches. It's like, dude, you're 21. Like, why are you giving advice on how to pick up women? Or, talk to me after you've had like an 8-year marriage or something, and maybe some kids or something. Get a little further down the road. Why are you telling everyone when you're, still in college about all of these pro dating tips, and you listen to it and you're like, none of that's right. None of that makes any sense. It's all the same thing. There's a million flavors of the same thing, right?
Especially with that. There's only one dating tip you actually need to get with like a person, at least for a man to woman point of view, because I'm a bloke, so I can only talk from that perspective. Literally, is stop trying so hard to do all those sort of things, like following the fucking advice that they have, like your first move and then that kind of thing. And it just gets so irritating when all you need to do is just be confident and comfortable with yourself. And then a woman will see that, go like, oh, he's confident and comfortable with himself, and I quite like him. I'll go up to him and talk to him. And then you just accept them. Like, I've been in a few relationships, and every single time, I've never once approached a woman. They've always approached me. So it's always that kind of thing. You never go the other way around. And it's like, you know, sometimes you see a good-looking woman with like quite an ugly guy, and that's not insulting the guy or anything, but it's just like they have the confidence and comfort within themselves that they don't need to be desperate. They could just be on their own if they wanted to, because they have that self-fulfillment. It's about what you have to offer, rather than just like being entitled to it and using these moves to try and get a thing you don't deserve. So that's another level of poser in a sort of weird way.
Well, I get with the poser aspect of it, because like social media really has like combined, like really conjoined two groups, and it's like the posers have a lot more leverage with social media because they love putting themselves up first, like making it all about themselves and not about the content. And social media, the algorithms and everything tend to really reward that. And on the flip side, you're told, like, if you want to make it as an artist these days, you need to be on social media. But what attracts the two different groups are different things, like internally speaking. What attracts somebody to be on social media and what attracts somebody to be an artist are two different things. And what you're asking is for to get that success, you need to have kind of both, or at least to play the part of the other. Like an artist wants to make stuff. Like fundamentally, they want to create something.
Is it a bit like a doublethink sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I guess kind of, but it's like an artist wants to make something. They don't necessarily want to make it about themselves. It's about the thing they create. And obviously a part of themselves is in the thing they create, but the thing they create is more important than themselves. Whereas posers, it's always about them. And if they ever do make anything, and rarely they do, but when they do, it's usually to validate themselves first. But social media rewards putting yourself first. And kind of where I see those two things intersect is it's all about creating your own brand these days. And that's where the brand kind of ties the two together. But it's easy to get away with not having a product, but having a brand. And that's why I think it favors the posers more, is you always want to create a brand. And this gets back to what was talking, Twotris was talking about way back, is I think the reason people are so pretentious online and will not talk to you or whatever if you reach out to them is they will first think, would this benefit my brand? They don't think about it from like an individual standpoint of, is this person an interesting person I would like to talk to? They think, well, would talking to this person benefit my brand or not? And everyone's kind of subconsciously or consciously kind of taking that perspective of viewing themselves as a brand.
I fucking love you, man.
Yeah, I think you nailed it.
Yeah, hit the nail on the head with that. I've one thing to add to it, which is with this idea of like the product and the brand, right? And like it's about putting like the product first, and if you don't do that, that's like a bit of a negative thing. When I've done like a few films and stuff, right? And I had to do a podcast, right? With like the director, and he wanted us to do a little podcast and like sit down and like, you know, it's kind of promote the film sort of thing, right? And like I sort of sat and I thought about the times when I've watched a thing where people promote a film and I've gone and watched the film and I thought this never happened, because I don't care about some random twat's film, you know. I don't care about like, oh, this guy that's just popped up in a YouTube short has made an album. I don't give a shit. Why should I care? What I care about is them. So I stopped selling stuff. Like I stopped going like, oh, you can find the film on Amazon, you can find the thing on Tubi TV, blah 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 blah. It's just like, if they're that interested, they'll find it them fucking selves, right? I don't need to push stuff onto them. I'd rather push the personal brand, because that way, if they can get on board with that, then there is more stuff out there. But it should be a case that, because like the second someone starts shilling something, say in this podcast right now, we all took turns like shilling the thing that we're currently working on, right? The audience would turn off because they don't care. They don't care about the film that I'm making or the album that you're making or, you know, the various YouTube channels that we've all got. They'd be interested in it if they get to see us more and experience a little bit of what we're like. And like, oh, I like the Tantris guy. His YouTube channel's in the description. I'll check that out. You know, that kind of thing. Rather than me sitting there going, oh, check out Tantris Humble, guys. He's really good. Because why should I? I don't give a shit. I want to be experiencing him so that I can then find out whether I want to be a part of his little world. And if I do, then brilliant, I'll subscribe to him. But stop forcing me. Stop shilling shit and telling me to subscribe and stuff like that. Fuck off.
I think the worst kind of shilling is the stuff people shill that they don't believe in. And one of my pet peeves is kind of, especially if it's a YouTuber or someone I kind of respect, it's like the mobile phone games. Those just kill me because those are the lowest bar of taking something that no one needs, no one wants, no one cares about, no one's going to play it. So I think you're hurting your reputation and your brand to take that, you know, $500 or whatever it is that you're given for a shitty predatory mobile game that its whole business model is to rip people off and kind of be crack for your mind. And I understand a little bit more if you have to take sponsors at a certain point for something you might use, like I don't know, razors or something. That I can respect that a lot more than the mobile phone games. Or personally, I hate Raycons as like an audio engineer. I just think that they're pure aids as far as headphones go. So, you know, I see those all the time, and it's just one of those things. It's like, as an audio person, I would never take that deal because it would just, anyone who knows anything about audio, it just shoots you in both feet immediately because it's not a good product. And so I think that anyone endorsing a product that they don't believe in, it's the same thing as a slimy sales guy selling you a broken car. It's just the YouTube version of it, you know?
Yeah, Sam, I did kind of...
Yeah, totally.
Like, you being an audio engineer and everything, trying to, like, tie everything all together is, like, since you're really good at audio, that's a skill that a lot of people don't have, especially, like, in the musical world. A lot of artists are, like, coming to you, and I know that, like, your experience... What did you say? Like, you've worked with 200, 300, 400 artists in your day, and, like, you can only remember only like a handful of them or something. I know this is really random, but I wanted to...
be fair, it might be a lot more than that. But yeah, it's kind of like a lot of things in life. You remember the 10% that are amazing because they stick out in your memory, and you remember the 10% that are the worst because it's hilarious and they're so bad that it's good kind of thing. And then everyone else in the middle is forgettable. It's kind of that weird gray area. And you see it on Instagram and TikTok and everything too, whereas if you're so terrible, you can actually have a career off being terrible. And that's just not music. That's even attitude and the way, you know, nuisance streamers and this kind of thing. If you're terrible enough, people will watch you. And if you're amazing, people will watch you. It's almost anything in the middle is kind of the problem. And as far as all the people I've met, like, yeah, I couldn't identify most of them. I don't remember working on their projects or whatever, but there was like a guy that came in to do an album yodeling, which is the only one I've ever done 10 years ago. And I remember every second of every song because I was hiding behind the glass, like crying, laughing the whole time because I could not just deal with this dude's yodeling album. Or the worst rappers I've ever met, which I've been collecting. I should make a coffee table book. Rappers leave behind their notebooks and their lyrics all the time. And so I have this notebook full of all the worst rap lyrics you've ever heard in your life. And I swear to God, it's a gold mine. It's like the funniest fucking thing in the world. It's also so illiterate and terrible that you're deciphering it like hieroglyphics. Like what, like, I remember one of my favorites was called To G or Not To G. And yes, Shakespeare reference. And it was so poorly written. I remember he had a line that was like, I'm high as a plane, but he wrote like PLAIN. And it was just so horribly written and so horribly done that whenever someone would leave these lyrics behind, I'm like, oh, I'm keeping this. And so I would leave them sitting in a folder. So when I had people over, I'm like, please open this folder and just read it. And you tell me what you think it means. And it's hilariously good. I mean, it's fascinating what people think or try to pass off as art. But yeah, that's what you said. I remember the best and the worst. And, you know, I've been doing it for 15 years, and I remember a very small amount of the people I've ever dealt with.
So that was a really good anecdote, dude. And if ever I get to come over to your house, I would like to see that notebook because you have some of the
Absolutely.
best stories. So I did want to say, like, we only got a little bit of time left. So in the last bit of the conversation, I don't mean to shoehorn this idea in or anything, but like, Josh, I think Sam, you are a really talented producer, and it would be really cool if you guys like stayed in contact and maybe like I don't know did a musical project or not. I don't know, but the two of you, I see you guys vibing a lot in this regard, and if you guys ever did anything, man, that would be like I'd feel really happy.
I have written a new album. I haven't recorded it yet, but I've written all the songs, like the lyrics and like most of the composition. And it's sort of like, I want to sort of make it a little bit more prog rock, but not like Yes or Genesis. I want to like say that straight away because I hate Genesis and that kind of thing. The Pink Floyd / Camel, that level where there's a little bit of fun to it. There's a little bit of organ sort of solo, but like dun, 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 rather than like total wankery, right? And a bit of like explorative, like longer form sort of songs, right? And it's weird, right? Because I'm actually in the happiest like sort of phase of my life that I think I've ever been in. Like the past 6 months have just been like lovely, right? You know, started this YouTube channel, found success, found like my girlfriend who's amazing, like found like a new job that I really like, had so many fun experiences, gone to like a couple fun parties and stuff like that. It's like been amazing, right? But yet this album sounds like I want to kill myself. It's really strange. All the songs are like the most miserable motherfucking out songs that you've ever heard. There's stuff on there like what's one of the songs? There's a song on there about growing old and dying and just waiting for death in a retirement home. And like, you know, stuff like existential dread and that kind of thing. So each song has like a specific thing that I'm trying to get across. And like, not only do I want to like record them like more live, and there's one guy who, this might fall through, but he said that I might be able to record at Abbey Road Studios.
That'd be cool.
So that if that could happen, that would be sick. And then try and get the song proper together with a band, with a bassist, a guitar player, maybe a keyboardist sort of thing, right? And like proper hone in on the songs, right? And a vocalist because I can't sing, and get it sort of made into a real sounding album that could be pressed to like vinyl or something like that.
I'll sing for you.
Press it to vinyl. And then play some live shows. Like it'll probably all be in London, maybe a small regional tour around London. And then maybe later on, you know, do something more depending on how much money it could actually bring in. Like if doing shows makes it a profit, then go further away. But for the moment, start in London.
Yeah, like any business, usually when you start a band, you don't make any money for a long time. At least not off the music. You can make it off the shows, off the merch, off of that sort of thing. But these days, unfortunately, everyone expects music for free. And you're competing with everyone putting out music for free. So you kind of have to, it's not like even YouTube where you're going to get paid some sort of ad revenue that kind of makes sense. Spotify pays absolutely nothing. So if you go into music, it really has to be a passion project, which is one thing that I like about it is I do think it comes off as a little more genuine. It's a little harder to fake being musically talented. Maybe in the near future it will be, but as of right now, it still takes some ability and some thought to do. But it definitely, you're going to have a hard time. Everyone has a hard time at first, and you just have to push through it. And then making a band is hard because you're basically in a relationship with 5 dudes. So, you know, that's never easy. But if you can get through all that stuff, then, yeah, you know, the creative vision can push through. And as far as the content of what you're making, you referring to it as dark or not, some of that is subjective. It's weird how people will listen to what you write and then they'll interpret it as something totally different, something that maybe is so far from what you meant it to be that it's disturbing. That happens all the time. So the way you perceive something and the way someone else does could be a world apart. But that's one thing that's kind of cool about it too, depending on how you look at it.